Well, all right, today we're going to talk about pedal boards and avoiding some mistakes that you might make when you're just kind of grabbing pedals off the shelf at your guitar store, ordering them online, and putting them on a pedal board with not a lot of knowledge or background about pedal order, the types of pedals maybe you want to get for your different tones that you're looking for, and maybe some essentials. And again, we're going to avoid some pitfalls and we're going to avoid some mistakes in this video. I'll give you a whole bunch of knowledge about how to put a basic pedal board together for blues, blues rock, modern rock tones. Maybe you want to put a basic board together if you're playing in church. I just grabbed a bunch of usable suspects from Boss, MXR, and Keeley. Put them on this Dadddario pedal board with an MXR PowerBrick. We're going to talk about all this stuff. But first, let me play you some tones from this over a fun track. Then I'll go through each pedal and I'll give you the ins and outs and tell you a bunch of ways that you can avoid pitfalls and mistakes when putting a fun little pedal board together. All right, let's play some music. So before we play and check out these pedals, be sure to check out my website, workingclassguitar.com, where there's hundreds of guitar lessons, loads of courses, tabs, tracks, PDFs. We do monthly Zoom calls with all of our subscribers. It's a lot of fun. The link will get you 14 days free, and it's just a small subscription from month to month after that. All right, let's hear these pedals, play some guitar. Let's do it. All right, so we got some good tones there over that track just with these pedals and the rig that I have set up here. We'll talk a little bit about that, but really the purpose of this video is to get you guys to avoid some pedal board pitfalls. Maybe I should have called it that. We're gonna bust some myths, and I'm gonna teach you how to not make mistakes when you're just getting pedals off the internet or from a store and then putting them on a board with little or no guidance, okay? So that's what I'm here for today in this video. We're talking about a few things to consider. We're going to talk about signal path, signal chain, and let's just get started with that by talking about the fact that this is just a Fender American Pro 2 Strat going into this array of pedals. It goes to a Fender Blues Jr that's behind me. And I'm not using microphones here. I'm using the Universal Audio aux box. That's a wonderful tool for tube amplifiers so that I can use it silently and record direct. I'm still hearing the tube amplifier sound. That is harnessing, the aux box is harnessing that tone and sending it to my computer recording system, okay? So the aux box is like the second most expensive thing in this video. I tried purposefully to get some pedals that were like 150 bucks and under. The pedal board is a Dadddario collapsible pedal board, and then we'll even talk about power as well, because that's another really, really important piece to the pedal board situation. Okay, so let's just hear the Strat going through the pedals. There's actually no pedals on at this point. Right to the Blues Jr with its internal reverb. And I have it set up really clean because we're going to add drive from the pedals. Let's talk about the first pedal in the chain, and I want you to think about signal flow like water. Okay, so water comes out of the guitar, signal comes out of the guitar, hits the first pedal in the line, and that's the MXR Sugar Drive. Now, this is the pedal that they've designed to kind of mimic that, the Holy Grail Klon type sound, okay? When I turn it on, I'm using it as more of a clean boost because I like having a clean boost in the chain, and that's going to help further adjust these pedals or do things further to these pedals as well. You'll see what I mean. The cool thing about this pedal is you see there's a little blue light here, and that means that the buffer is on. So a buffer is a really important thing to have in a pedal board too, because it makes the signal strong throughout the entire chain, and you can turn that on or off. I opted to keep it on here because I like the way buffers sound like this. in the chain, and I wanted you to have a nice idea of it. So I'm not going to turn it on or off, but it would probably just weaken the signal a little bit if I turned it off. Maybe take some of the highs and the hi-fi-ness away. You want to add that with the buffer. Now the Sugar Drive, being that it is like a clone, means that it's going to add a really nice mid-range overdrive if you want it. But if you turn the drive all the way off and play with the volume and tone, it can now be a cool clean boost. So here you go. Here's just clean. And we'll boost it. And what that's getting me is really nice amp breakup. And I really dig that because it could even be a great rhythm sound. Now if I want to add the gain, let me back the volume down a smidge and I'll add the drive a bit, but it's really not my flavor for drive. What that circuit tends to do is sort of make the tone nosy, browner, and it's not my favorite in the beginning of the chain. I might want to put this later and hit that gain up a little bit because it'll add a new sort of mid-rangey component to my overdrive that I'm already using, okay? Because you want to think of pedals almost like ingredients in things. You know, maybe you want to finish with a little salt, or you want to add salt in the beginning, or do it both. You see where I'm going with that? But I like to use this as a nice clean drive, a clean boost, because you can hear the difference. Maybe I'm playing, they play a better chord. It busted the amp up a little bit, made it kind of speak more, and that's what I like out of a pedal like that. Now, could you get that same effect from just a clean boost? Yeah, you sure could. But what's cool about that is some folks like that more sort of mid-range drive sound that it offers you. But true to form, when you take the drive all the way down, it pulls it out of the circuit and you're just dealing with a clean boost. You could take a clean boost like that, crank it up, and drive the amp even harder. The volume's all the way up. And that kind of becomes an overdrive pedal because you might want the volume or the tone of the amp being pushed. That pedal can do it. So I opted just to kind of keep it slightly overdriven. And what's cool is when you back off, it's got that little bit of grit to it. Nice and dynamic. It's a nice option. I thought that's a pedal that a lot of folks could get a lot of use out of. And I'll consult my list here. Sugar Drive, 119 bucks for that pedal. Now we'll move over to a Boss Blues Driver. And what you're seeing is I have this first, the Blues Driver second. Now there's a lot of options with a Blues Driver, but what I've opted for, if I turn it on, it kind of sounds like the amp with the Sugar Drive on, right? And I did that on purpose because when I have overdrive pedals in the mix, I want them to just sort of start to slowly gain stage, gain on top of gain on top of gain. That's what I like. So I'd be more than content with that. And when I turn it on and off, it doesn't color the sound too much. Not a lot of mid-range. Just gain. And that's why I opted to put it next, because I want to start staging my gain up. And my gain is my distortion, okay? Just like basically pedals are doing, if you had a little person over there that could just kind of, you know, take the volume knob and turn it up ever so slightly as you needed it. That's what overdrive pedals help us do. Okay, so why is it important to have it there? Because I'm going to start to add more gain from the super overdrive, and maybe I want to hit it with the Sugar Drive. So I'm going to turn all of them off. Sugar Drive. Bright, snappy, hits the amp hard. Add this. So they're all levels of each other. And it responds very similar to what an amp would do if you turned it up. Sugar Drive off. Sugar Drive on. Not crazily altering the tone. That's so important, okay? So, great little combination there, and there's plenty of gain on tap in the Blues Driver if you wanted it. Starts to get a little fuzzy. But I kind of like where I had it. Great pedal. I'm a new believer in the Boss BD2 Blues Driver. Okay, let's check out some other pedals and add even more gain so that we can have a really nice gain stage lead sound. All right, so let's listen to the classic SD1. This is the Boss Super Overdrive. This pedal goes way back. Sounds really good with amps that are already distorted, but I wanted to add this to the chain just so you could hear how some pedals tonally can really change what you're working with. So pedal off real quick. Pedal on. Definite bump in the mid-range, and that can be a good thing because mid-range can help you jump out from the band in a mix, especially if you're playing with another guitar player. That guitar player's got an overdriven sound. You have an overdriven sound. It's going to get kind of washy, but if you have a pedal that jumps out with the mids, then you can really sort of stand out when you're playing a solo. I always make sure I have something like that on my board. And I have it set up with a low amount of gain. This is another thing with overdrive pedals. I'm big on using a lot of level and a minimal amount of gain to really see what they have. Because I want it to react with an amp where it doesn't sound squashed and squeezed as soon as I turn it on. Now if I went the opposite way, you'll hear it gets rather compressed. Not bad, it holds together pretty well, but I like to do that low gain, higher volume. I feel like it makes the pedal and the amp and everything speak a little bit. But there's another reason why I do that, because I start stacking things. I might be playing a tune, or I have a nice sort of rhythm thing with the Sugar Drive. Throw the Blues Driver on. There it is. Now we're going to go to a bridge, and I want to crank it for some great lead overdrive. So my gain staging was such that I had low levels or medium levels of drive, and then I added them together. I got a nice sort of step through, right? So in my particular song, started with some light gain, added some heavier gain, and then maxed it out there to where they were all three of them were on. Maybe I took the Sugar Drive off so I can get a... not uncommon. Players like Stevie Ray Vaughan would sometimes use 2 tube screamers. People will stack overdrives all together all the time. I do it frequently as well because it's sometimes just too challenging to turn one on and turn one off, and it can juxtapose a little bit too much. So I try to find drives that play nicely together so I can do that. And when you're playing blues or blues rock, one of the cool things that you can do to add some space, to add some movement, is to add a tremolo pedal. All right, so let's talk about a tremolo pedal. So tremolo is one of my favorite effects, and I use Boss tremolos quite a bit. I have it on another board here. Definitely my favorite to go to. I love Boss pedals because they're big footprint, easy to hit, easy to jump on. And a couple things you should know about tremolo pedals in general. First of all, if you're playing blues and blues rock, it's the perfect thing to add, especially if you're a second guitar player. And maybe they're playing some blues, or maybe they're playing a slow ballad. And the band's doing that, you can play. And you can create some nice motion with tremolo. It's also great when you're doing sort of that like old Magic Sam. I could do that all day, so fun. So when you're dealing with rate, you're dealing with speed, and that's how fast the tremolo is oscillating. You've probably heard that song, probably the first to use tremolo. Depth is going to be sort of the amount of tremolo or that you'll hear. All the way down, you're going to hear very little. And as you turn it up, it'll get choppier. And then we can change the waveform here. Different sounds you'll see. To the left, it's going to be more subtle, a little more Fendery. And as you turn it up, that wave is going to get choppier. So you can get some pretty drastic tremolo effects. Good stuff, right? Lots of stuff that you can do with a tremolo pedal. I like to kind of set it somewhere like this and play around with the rate. Now there's pedals out there that'll give you a tap function, so you can tap the speed in. Oftentimes the tremolo I have, I'll just put a little, it's like a little helicopter blade that you can grab with your foot and turn that rate knob up and down. That's really helpful. So this is what's considered a modulation effect. And a modulation effect, you can go in either place. You can put modulation before your overdrives or after. So let's talk about why you want to do that. So I want my tremolo to be affected by my overdrives. So that means if I'm playing an overdriven sound with the blues driver and the sugar drive, that's all being fed, signal chain, fed, one goes through another, to the tremolo. If I had the tremolo before those, this is why order is important, I'd have all that wub, 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 wub sound going into my overdrive and affecting that. It might be cool, right? But for most of the things I think you're going to want to play on an average rock and blues situation, you're probably going to want your tremolo after your overdrives, okay? But again, no rules, but you don't want the wub, 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 wub sound going in and affecting the input gain of the overdrive, okay? Try to think of some fancy analogy, but it's too quick for me to think about what a good a good analogy of that would be. But just think about, you don't want your overdrive to be choppy, thus don't put your tremolo in front of your overdrive. Okay, cool. So we got a couple more things to check out. Time-based effect and the order of those. That's super important. Now, one of the coolest things you can do to fatten up your tone is add delay. And really, a slapback delay is my favorite thing to do this. Jimmy Page to Robin Ford are people that I've always looked at as they're the single guitar player in a band. But that slap echo can make your rhythm playing that much fuller and your guitar sound that much fatter. So maybe you're playing something like... If I took that delay off, we're hearing the reverb from the amp, but with this added, so I want to take the reverb off, just so we can really tell. When I create a slapback sound, and I'm using the MXR Carbon Copy Mini for this, it's a great pedal, and when I turn the pedal on, you'll see there's the delay, there's the mix, and there's the regeneration, often called feedback, okay? The delay is the time, and that means the time from which I play to the time in which the delayed note is played back to me. So if I wanted a long repeat, the higher the knob, the longer the setting. If I turn it down, happens fast. And what I like to do is kind of give myself a lot to practice. And it's like, okay, I can hear that. Now my mix, I'm gonna pull it back to taste a little bit. And I really wanna make sure for a slap echo, I only use one repeat. Because you don't want this. That's multiple repeats. Now if I wanted a long sort of soloing delay, I might do something and add a couple more repeats. But when we're talking just blues rock, let's just keep it simple. And let's turn the delay time down. You know, the rockabilly players use a lot of this. And that's a good measure, so we can kind of adjust our time. Too long, bring it back. Let's find a sweet spot, because you want it to sound percussive and rhythmic. There we go. Let's turn the mix up even more, a little overdrive. So now we have that gallop kind of thing happening. Now, again, this is a time-based effect because it's delay, and I'm putting it later in the chain after my modulation, which is called tremolo, because I want my overdrive to hit the delay. I want my delayed sounds to be of the overdrive. Now, some people will actually put delays before overdrives to kind of dirty up the delay. It's kind of like adding one ingredient before or after. I want this delay to capture everything that's happening before, so that everything is delayed, okay? So I don't have delay, then overdrive or trem, okay? So even if I had tremolo, and I had a long delay, you could try that, you'd hear long tremolo. There's tremolo in there somewhere. So the tremolo is kind of winding down, but it's in the delay trails because I added that to the mixture. So let's go back to the slap echo. Hopefully that makes sense. See if we can get it. Make it a little longer. Almost. Now we're going to dial the mix back. Great tool to fatten up your tone. Now it got drier because we turned the reverb on the amp off. And I did that because I added this Keeley Omni reverb. This is a cool pedal because it's got 3 different sounds here. And I have it on the spring, and it does a pretty good spring. Spring reverbs are a tank that lives in an amplifier, and the sound of them often is what's referred to as the drip. So you'll hear like, it goes plink, plink, plink. And you can change the length of that and the amount. Now, that's probably a lot, right? So we're saying, you might be saying to yourself, why have reverb on my amp? I don't need this. Well, you might not, but you might want an extra flavor of reverb, and that's totally common these days. So we have the Sugar Drive, the MXR, and the reverb happening. Great delay, great sort of rhythm sound. Makes the guitar sound like it's in a room. We turn that stuff off. This gives it way more personality. Okay, again, inexpensive versions of these great sounding pedals. The carbon copy minis, $149. Delay pedals are always usually a little more expensive. There's a little more tech involved in making those. That Omni reverb is $129. Okay, so you get 3 reverbs. And let's talk about reverb really quickly. We have the room sound up here. The room's gonna sound more like if you're in a studio or reflections from the room that you're in. Hear that against the spring. The room's a little shorter in its decay time. Now, when you go to hall, maybe you're playing in a church situation or something with some ambient music, and you need some longer trailing delays. You could use that in addition to the reverb on the amp. Turn that down a little bit. Maybe add some overdrive. Again, turn it off. Loses some of the personality. Okay, so good stuff there. And that's why you might want to consider having your reverb last. So drives, modulation, delay, then verb, because reverb is catching everything that you put in front of it, okay? So pedal order, super, super important. I hope some of that makes sense to you because that's gonna be the biggest hurdle that you encounter for sure. Okay, another 2 quick things I wanna talk about because you wanna really go into battle with your pedal board, having the right things to make them sound the best, and that's what's coming up next. So one of the least sexy things to talk about when you're building a pedal board is power, but it's so, so important. Now, thankfully, there's lots of really great sort of solutions for powering multiple pedals. Different pedals, like overdrive pedals, for instance, and even this tremolo, require what's called, they all require milliamps, okay? Now, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I know that lower milliamps is generally what these kinds of pedals draw. And you'll see that you'll be able to power them in a multiple different ways with some very inexpensive power supplies out there, but it's worth it to spend the money on something decent. That's why, again, try to keep it in more of the budget realm. That I use the MXR DC Brick, and that's just to the right of the reverb down there, and that's gonna power 8 pedals, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, maybe even more. I believe it's 8. So we got 6 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I love the fact that I can get a nice power supply that's going to supply clean power and have a relatively, it's just some amp hum, really, really quiet signal when I'm not turning my volume down. That's really important. And the cleaner the power, the better everything kind of works. It's so important. Nowadays, I even get consulted by a company here in town called XTS that makes sure that I have the right power for my pedals so I'm not underpowering things. There's plenty of stuff out there, like the digital pedals. Some of them require a lot of power. So you really want to make sure that you look into something like this MXR DC Brick. The Voodoo Lab stuff is great. I love the True Tone power supplies, and the Strymon Zuma stuff out there is great as well. Even the company Shocks, that I think has a connection with Eventide, is really great as well. So there's plenty of really high quality power options out there. But the DC Brick from MXR is what we're using because it comes in at just like, I don't know, 89 bucks, right? And I'll put links to all this stuff below so you can check it out. And this pedal board is this Dadddario collapsible pedal board. It's a cool pedal board, and it's nice that you can make it the size you want. I don't think It offers a lot of space underneath for your power supply, which I like. That's why I stuck the PowerBrick there on top. If you're okay with that, could be a great solution. I think that's like 89 bucks as well, 99 bucks, right? Got to take your notes, right? I'm not going to pretend like I have all this stuff off the top of my head. There's a lot to know. Power, super important. That's the second most important thing that you don't want to fall victim to, is having inadequate power on your pedal board. All right, so the third thing I want to talk to you about is a pitfall that we can fall into, and that's thinking that we have to buy the expensive boutique pedals. Now, I love all kinds of pedals. You see, I got great sounds with some inexpensive ones right off of the shelf. And again, I'll put links below. You can check each and every one out. But should you buy the modded Blues driver? Maybe you might want to check it out if it's that important to you. You might want to check out the hand-built Overdrive pedal that's $300 or $400. But if it's not going to serve you, look into the, $58.99 for a Boss SD1 or a DS1. Start there. And, these are inexpensive things to get into to see what you like or what you don't like. Now, there's obviously thousands of videos of guys like me and gals playing these pedals that are doing a great job demoing them for you. But I want to really make sure that you understand you don't need the most expensive ones to start with. They're fun, and when your ear and your hands understand the nuances of what some of those pedals might do, great. But I could play a gig with these happily, be on a desert island with those pedals all day long. I know how to set them up. I understand the dynamics and the tweaking involved in them. It's not very much. Spin some knobs, hear what you like, and you're good to go. Okay, so I'll put links, like I said, to all these below because they're some of the more inexpensive ones out there. Rugged quality, Boss and MXR and Keeley, they all make great stuff. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comments because I like hearing what you guys like in pedals so that I can check them out and I can recommend what I think might be good for you as well. All right, so those are some of my pedal board myth-busting ideas, different ways to set them up, different things to consider when you're building your signal chain and building your pedal board. You don't want to fall into the traps and get too many pedals that you don't need. Get what you need, get the right power so they sound great, and you can use them for whatever gig you need. All right, that was a lot of fun. I hope you guys got something out of it. Don't forget to hit the links below for these pedals. Subscribe to the channel because I would just love to keep building this channel with all you guys and talk about more fun stuff in the guitar realm. Hit the thumbs up button, and of course, check out the link below for my lesson website, workingclassguitar.com. I'll put links there below. You can try the site free for 14 days. It's just a small fee per month after that. Loads of lessons, tracks, tabs, courses, adding to it every week. We do live Zoom chats. It's a lot of fun. Please check it out. Please check out everything I put below. And if anything, just hit the thumbs up button because I want to see you often and I want to see you here answering your questions. All right, I'm Corey. I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.